I was finishing organizing my belongings on the shelf of my new bedroom when the old man called me from the kitchen, asking me to accompany him for dinner. I put the empty suitcase under the bed, walked out of the room, and crossed a narrow hallway where many photographs hung on the wall, displaying the previous owners of the same house. I felt immediately observed by countless pairs of eyes, but I did not give it importance, and I met with the old man. After finishing dinner, we both went to sleep. That night, I had a strange dream. A dream in which I saw myself asleep, as if my consciousness were on one side of the room while my body remained motionless in the bed. In the dream, despite its strange nature, everything seemed normal. However, it did not last for too long when the door opened. A woman dressed in a robe, barefoot and limping, entered the room at a slow pace. She reached the edge of the bed and leaned towards me, stretching out her hand, trying to reach me. When she was just inches away from touching me, I woke up covered in sweat and my heart beating intensely on my chest. It was just a dream, I kept saying to calm it down. When I did, I went back to sleep. Some days later, the old man left town to visit some relatives of his, so I was home alone at night. I sat down in front of the TV and turned it on. I immediately put on my favorite TV show, Otro Rollo, and got ready to have a pleasant night. Some time passed and I was laughing at the jokes the host made when heavy blows to the living room window diverted my attention. My heart began to beat in haste, but I tried to calm down, for the noise could be caused by some childish mischief. With those thoughts in mind, I went to the window and moved the curtains to find out what was causing the noise. The yellow eyes of a large white owl were the first thing I saw. That animal kept pounding at the window with its long wings without taking its eyes off mine. His eyes seemed almost human, full of feelings of hatred and anger. Stunned, I slowly walked away from the window. I immediately noticed that the owl imitated my movements. As I moved away from there, so did the creature. More determined than before, I went to bed and tried to forget that strange feeling that the whole situation gave me. The old man and I never talked about any similar situation. It did not seem like he had lived similar experiences, and I got convinced that my mind was playing tricks on me. Next few days, a third company got installed in front of my favorite breakfast restaurant. They tried to promote tourism in the village and show all the riches that San Juanito could offer. While I was waiting for the breakfast that I ordered at the restaurant to be ready, I went out to take a look at the third company. There, I talked for a few minutes with the lady in charge and told her about the house where I was staying, not mentioning the strange events I had experienced. She, excited, offered me an old album where I could see how the whole town had been, including my current home many years before. With growing interest, I took the album and flipped the pages one by one until a photograph of the old house appeared. It showed the big house, with new paint decorating the walls and no crack in its structure. On one side of the photograph, almost at the corner, a woman stood and looked right at the camera with no facial expression. My breath got off when I recognized her. She was the same woman from my dream. That night, I lay down on the bed, trying to sleep and forget everything I had experienced during the last few days. I covered myself with the blanket up to the head, trying childishly to protect myself against any threat. As my mind began to leave consciousness, the sound of a few steps rumbled over my ears, erasing all signs of sleep in me. Cold sweat ran over my body as the steps approached my bed. My heartbeats were so loud that I feared they would expose my conscious state to whatever was stalking me. The steps were getting stronger and stronger. I heard them approaching my bed, heading to the wall and continuing through the ceiling. My whole body trembled, either caused by my fear or by the intense pounding of those steps that made everything shake in their path. Finally, the striding steps stopped at the ceiling, right above my head. After a few seconds of uncertainty, and still my body shaking, I was preparing to remove the blanket from my face to inspect the room. When I had lowered the blanket right to the height of my eyebrows, A slight warm wind and a putrid odor touched my forehead and hit my nostrils. That is when I noticed it. Heavy and difficult breathing came from the same place where the steps stop, as if some creature was hanging from the ceiling just above my head, waiting for me to make some movement. Until then, I had considered myself a man of complete science, without any religious belief. However, that night I prayed. I prayed to all the saints, the angels, and God. I prayed for some merciful soul to take pity on me and save me. I prayed to see my mother again so I could hug her. I prayed and prayed until I could give myself the courage to remove all the blankets from my body and confront whatever tormented and haunted me. A bare ceiling with a single hanging light bulb was the first thing I saw. I looked around the room and could not find anything odd. With increasing adrenaline, I went out to the backyard to look for the culprit of my insomnia, being received only by the darkness and the silence of the night. That same night, I packed all my things in my suitcase and left the village, without even informing the old man, to never return.